Hello students, in this third lecture of the third topic, low temperature techniques, uh, today we are going to study about few more techniques to obtain low temperature. Last time we have discussed two techniques. First one, that is expansion of liquids, and second one, that is expansion of gases. And we also discussed about the refrigeration cycle. Now, today we are going to further study two more techniques to obtain low temperatures. First is thermoelectric refrigeration, and second is adiabatic demagnetization. So, let us start with thermoelectric refrigeration. So, as the word indicates, thermoelectric refrigeration. So, thermo means related to temperature or thermal energy, and electric, that means something which is related to generation of EMF. So the thermoelectric refrigeration is a method of producing low temperature which is based on Seebeck effect. So Seebeck effect is very important effect which you might have studied in instrumentation courses. So uh, in Seebeck effect, you have studied that EMF is produced when the junctions of two different conductors are maintained at two different temperatures. For example, T1 and T2. So suppose this is a uh, two different metals. This is metal A and this is metal B, and they are forming two junctions. Okay. So this is the first junction. This is the second junction. The first junction is suppose at temperature T1, and the second junction is suppose at the temperature T2. And let us assume that T1 is greater than T2. So according to Seebeck effect, an EMF E will be generated, and that is directly proportional to the difference between these two temperature junction temperature, that is T1 and T2. So this is what the Seebeck effect. But now we are going to study thermoelectric refrigeration. Now thermoelectric refrigeration is based on another effect which is exactly opposite to this Seebeck effect. So let us see what is this effect on which the thermoelectric refrigeration are based. So this effect is known as Peltier effect. So what is Peltier effect? So if you consider the same two dissimilar metal and two junctions formed by this closed loop of these two metals. So this is metal A and this is metal B. Again, the initial, suppose we assume that both of them are at the same temperature. Okay. Now let us assume that we have connected a battery here. Okay. Let us connect a battery here. So because of that, some current flows here. Some current flows in this particular circuit. So when such a current flows through this circuit, the junction temperature will change here. So one junction will become hot and other junction will become cold. So this effect is known as the Peltier effect. This effect is known as the Peltier effect. And a refrigeration effect which is obtained at the cold junction. So heat is rejected at to the surrounding at the hot junction. So if we assume that this is the hot junction, heat will be rejected to the surrounding. So this is the basis of the thermoelectric refrigeration system. Now you can change the position of which particular junction you want cold. That can be decided on the direction of current. Okay, if you want to change this cold junction and hot junction position, you just change the direction of current flow. So that will change the position of these two. Now, what is the basic requirement for the two metals that we select to form a junctions in order to have thermoelectric refrigeration? So the first and very important thing is that the ideal thermoelectric material should have high electrical conductivity and low thermal conductivity. These are the two important properties: high electrical conductivity and low thermal conductivity. Now, what is the problem with pure metals? If you select a pure metal as the materials for forming the junction, now you know that pure materials have high electric conductivity, that is no problem, but they also have high thermal conductivity. So, what we require is low thermal conductivity. Therefore, pure metals are not good. Again, if you consider insulator, then insulators have low electrical conductivity. So, therefore, they are also not good. Then, third option is semiconductor. So semiconductors are supposed to be a good material for this particular case because their conductivity lies between pure metals and insulators. So they have enough electrical conductivity and as well they have low thermal conductivity. So semiconductors are used actually to form the thermoelectric refrigeration, and in this case actually the PN junctions are formed. So the P type and N type of materials are so choose that the P type material have positive thermoelectric power while N type of material have negative thermoelectric power. So this type of combination is used in forming the thermoelectric refrigeration system where PN junctions can be used for this application. So this is all about the thermoelectric refrigeration. Now let us go to the second type uh, that we are going to study here, that is adiabatic demagnetization. Okay, so let us try to understand what is actually adiabatic demagnetization and how it is used to obtain very low temperatures. Now, magnetic refrigeration actually it is based on magnetocaloric effect, and it is discovered first time by E. Warburg in 1881. So, magnetocaloric effect. So, definitely some magnetization, demagnetizations are involved and heat exchange are involved here. Now, just like if you see the analogy with the mechanical compression and expansion of gases, there are some materials that raise their temperature when adiabatically magnetized. So, when you have the compression and expansion of gases where cooling can be achieved. Similarly, here also there are some materials by magnetizing and demagnetizing we can obtain the lower temperature. So adiabatically magnetize and drop their temperature when adiabatically demagnetize. Okay, so temperatures very near to absolute zero they can be obtained by adiabatic demagnetization of certain paramagnetic salts. So the actual samples or materials that are used, they are paramagnetic salt. Now, you know, in paramagnetic material, each atom of this paramagnetic salt may be considered to be a tiny magnet. If the salt is not magnetized, then all its atoms or the magnets are randomly oriented. Okay, so they are having random orientation, and the net magnetic force in that case will be zero. But suppose if it is exposed to strong magnetic field, what will happen? All these tiny magnets, that means atom, they will align themselves to the direction of external magnetic field or the applied magnetic field. Now, while aligning, some work is done, and this work done and the temperature increases during this process. Okay, because of this work done, temperature increases in this process. So if the salt is kept in contact with the surrounding, for example liquid helium, so what will happen? This temperature increased during the process of alignment, that will be absorbed by liquid helium, and now the temperature of the particular sample will be in equilibrium with the surrounding. That means the liquid helium, which is having the temperature of the order of 3 to 4 degree Kelvin. So it is enough lower temperature actually. Now, if the magnetic field is suddenly removed, we assume that, so initially we have increased the magnetic field to increase the orientation of the tiny magnets in a paramagnetic salt along the direction of magnetic field. Now suppose if you suddenly remove the magnetic field, what will happen? The atom will come back to their original random orientation. Okay, so they will lose this parallel direction to the magnetic field because now you are removing the magnetic field. So they will once again become randomly oriented. So this again requires a work to be done by the atoms. But if there is no heat transfer, what will happen? If there is no heat transfer from the surrounding, the internal energy of the salt will decrease. So for this work done, from where the energy comes, that will be the definitely internal energy of the sample will be taken, and therefore the sample will become very cool. So the internal energy of the salt will decrease and it does the work, and consequently the salt will be cooled. So this process is achieved uh, which are temperatures very near to absolute zero. Now, what kind of salts are used? So very commonly a paramagnetic salt like gadolinium sulfate, they are used. So in this particular case, magnetization involves alignments of electronic spin. Protons and neutrons also have spins, you know that. So in an atom, proton and neutron also have their spin. They are called as nuclear spin. Now, these can be aligned by magnetic field. This gives lower temperatures for a brief instant of time. And this will be a tremendously lower temperature, very near to absolute zero. So, actually, this, however, not macroscopic temperature, but temperature associated with the nuclear spin. Now, let us try to understand this process of adiabatic demagnetization. In short, you can explain this whole process as isothermal magnetization followed by adiabatic demagnetization. So there is no heat exchange while demagnetization, and isothermal, in order to keep the temperature same with the surrounding, therefore isothermal magnetization. So this is the typical representation. You can see this, these are strong magnets. That means strong magnetic field is applied. So inside this inner part, you can see here, this is the sample actually. Okay, paramagnetic salt, gadolinium sulfate, for example. Okay, so this is the salt which is actually evacuated. High vacuum system is working to keep this particular environment evacuated here, and surrounding to this you can see these black lines. This is liquid helium, you can see. So it is immediately having a surrounding of liquid helium. So you can see this, first of all, the sample to be cooled, that means the uh, paramagnetic salt gadolinium sulfate is allowed to touch a cold reservoir of liquid helium. You can see this is in contact with liquid helium, which has a constant temperature of about 3 to 4 degree Kelvin, and a magnetic field is induced in the region of sample. So slowly the magnetic field is increased. So this is the first step. Second, now what is done here? Once the sample is in thermal equilibrium with the cold reservoir means this liquid helium, the magnetic field strength is increased. Okay, so what will happen? This causes the entropy of the sample to decrease because the particles align with the magnetic field, and the temperature of the sample is still the same as that of the cold reservoir at this point. Okay, so this cold reservoir, so because whatever the heat generated, that will be shared with the surrounding, and in this way the isothermal magnetization will take place here. Okay, now in the next part what is done here is, then the sample is isolated. So once this uh, isothermal magnetization process is completed, now this liquid helium is pumped out. Okay, you can see the liquid helium pump. Okay, it is pumped out. So now there will be no medium to share the heat, anything that is generated here. So the sample is isolated from the cold reservoir and the magnetic field strength is reduced. Okay, so the magnetic field strength here that is present, that is reduced. So that means the process of demagnetization, and it is adiabatic demagnetization because there is no medium to share the heat produced here. So the entropy of the sample remains the same, but the temperature drops. So whatever the work done here, that is at the cost of internal energy of the system. So entropy remains the same, but the temperature drops in reaction to reduction in the magnetic field strength, and this process can be repeated several times. Okay, permitting the sample to be cooled to a very low temperature of the order of zero point 0.3 degree Kelvin to as low as 0.0015 degree Kelvin. So this is a very small temperature one can achieve with the help of this adiabatic demagnetization. So in short, you can say this is the isothermal magnetization and adiabatic demagnetization process by which one can obtain a very small temperatures.